Welcome to the PMI Talk Show, your go-to space for conversations that inspire, educate, and energize the world of project management. Brought to you by PMI Netherlands, we're here to explore big ideas, practical solutions, and the human side of getting things done. Guided by PMI Global's values on innovation and impact, we promise to keep it fun, insightful, and full of fresh perspectives. My name is Shalini Mansharmani, and I'm your host for this journey, so I'm thrilled to have you on board. Today, in honor of International Women's Day, we're diving into an incredibly important topic, gender diversity and equality at PMI Netherlands chapter. Our guests today are leaders who actively shape diversity and inclusion within the PMI Dutch chapter. We will discuss steps being taken to create more opportunities for women and challenges faced throughout our daily life, and the impactful initiatives driving the change required. Whether you're an aspiring leader, a seasonal profession, or simply passionate about fostering equality, this episode is for you. Our first guest for this episode is Laura, our Vice President of PMI Netherlands chapter. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
So today is International Women's Day, and I'll ask you a few questions on how we're doing within the PMI Netherlands chapter. My first question to you is, what role does gender equality play in PMI Netherlands chapter?
Gender equality is a very important topic in our PMI strategy. We have worked on our strategy for this year earlier in the year, in January, and this is one of the key points. We will organize several events and activities around diversity and inclusiveness this year, and we will also measure our progress in this space.
And how do you measure the progress? What initiatives are you taking to measure that?
We will establish key measures, and we will keep track of them throughout the year.
Sounds good. How do you support other board members in integrating gender equality into their respective functions?
The chapter board is very inclusive. I'm always very proud to say that out of 9 directors, 6 are women.
Wow, what an achievement for the chapter this year.
Absolutely, yes. And from my point of view as vice president, but in the board work, but also in my daily job, to encourage gender equality, I encourage especially women to be more confident, more self-assured, and make sure that they believe in what they're doing and that they can do it well.
Very well. My other question to you is, what steps do we take to attract and retain gender diverse membership and volunteer bases in our chapter?
So we welcome, of course, every volunteer that joins the chapter, who joins the chapter. Every member who joins is also personally welcomed and directed on how to interact within the chapter. And it is, of course, one of the main values of the PMI is respect. So I think we apply this value on our everyday activities. We respect every nationality, every religion, every background, and of course every gender.
Right. And when you say respect, it's also about respecting the time of our volunteers, because it's an additional job next to our day-to-day life, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we are very flexible, and we understand that this is a volunteering activity, so anything that people can bring into it, of course, is welcome, every energy, every dedication, but also we know that there are other priorities, and yeah, we are accepting, of course, that.
Right. And last personal question to you, Laura, how do you juggle your work, PMI, and your personal life together as a woman?
I have a very good work-life balance, I have to say. I'm lucky to be working from home, so I don't have commuting time, that saves me. And of course, being at home, I can arrange a lot of daily things as well. I balance my daily job with PMI by focusing on PMI a little bit on before work and after work hours. Sometimes I spend some time in the weekend on it. And yeah, so I dedicate as much time as I can. And of course, as I said, if there are things to be done and they need to be done at a slower pace, people are very understanding about that.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Laura.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Our second guest for this episode is Agnes, who is leading our academic outreach practice in the PMI Netherlands chapter. Welcome, Agnes.
Thank you, Celine.
How do you feel today?
A little bit nervous.
Don't be. Can you tell me how do you promote gender equality within the academic outreach program and partnerships?
We work together with universities and provide equal opportunities and promote project management to young women in the Netherlands.
That's a very nice initiative.
Yes.
Yeah. What strategies do you use to encourage young women to be part of our network and also part of our project management field?
Well, we host several workshops and talks featuring professional women in project management.
And can you give me specific examples or success stories?
Well, for example, today we are having a high tea at the Porseleinenfles in Delft, Women in Project Management on the Project Management International Women's Day, with several women featuring and talking about your role in the project management organization.
It's very nice, right? And
yes,
it gives a positive outlook and positive energy overall, right?
Yes,
to be helping others in this journey and shaping the future of project management.
And I think in general, sharing your experience with younger women is really rewarding.
What have you learned throughout your career, but also as a volunteer at PMI, that you'd like to share with our audience?
I think find your own way, develop your own way of managing projects, your own style, and stick to that. And do the right thing, because if you do the right thing, say the right thing, then in the end, you will be rewarded for that as well. And don't let you put down or have any words saying differently. I think that's the key.
Very powerful message. Thank you for being here, Agnes.
You're welcome.
Our next guest for this episode is Christina, our events director. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much, Shalini.
It's International Women's Day today, and I'm going to ask you a few questions on what you do within the chapter for that.
Okay.
So my first question to you is, how do you ensure gender diversity and inclusion in our communication and events planning?
Well, ensuring gender diversity and inclusion is really important because that's how we can create a welcoming atmosphere for all our events. And it starts, with the team. So we have a very diverse team. Diversity brings strength. So we have a team made up of not only people that are diverse in gender, so we have actually more women than men on the team, but we have both.
What a celebration.
We have both, and we have women from different backgrounds. So women with a technical background, women with a more non-technical, from different parts of the world. So diversity is just built into our team.
Definitely. Yeah, that's what's inspiring to our audience and for our member engagement, right?
Yeah, it starts there and then it goes on, with the planning. So we get input from all of the team. So we have a representation of all our different members. And then we also look at diversity and inclusion when we're doing our marketing and communications.
So how do you build that communication strategy? What is it that exactly do you implement?
So looking indeed at all the demographics
Yeah.
and looking at trying to provide a breadth of events
Mhm.
that there's something for everyone.
Mhm.
And then of course focusing on our project management professionals and getting them the professional development
Yeah.
items that they need. And since this year, we also have, really targets about having inclusion and diversity with speakers. So targets on how many female speakers we have during the year in our different events.
So I hear the PMI Summit is coming up with Benelux.
It is.
And how do you ensure that we're making it a very inclusive environment?
Well, just the same as last year. I mean, last year when we looked at the panel, we said, okay, we have to have strong female voices. We have to represent industry. We have to represent academia. We have to have those voices there that are representing the community that we represent in project management. So both the men and the women.
Right. And can you maybe share a brief example with our audience on a successful past event bringing both genders together?
For sure. I think, today as International Women's Day, we decided, okay, every year we have this event and we're giving women a platform to speak. But at the same time, we include men because at the end, women need to be heard and they need to be heard and they have to have voices also from male participants. So yes, I mean we are really happy to be able to have representation not only from women but also from men, even on Women's Day.
Right, because it's important to have men as allies. So,
exactly.
Women and men together on one platform, and male allyship is also equally important
Exactly.
to support the cause. Lastly, Christina, can you tell us about yourself? How do you manage working outside of PMI as a volunteer, balancing your personal life, but also as a volunteer at PMI? So how do you juggle all three aspects?
Well, yeah, that's indeed a tough one. It takes a village, right, to raise a child. So my learning has been, you really have to build a strong team so that you have people that you can count on and that'll also tell you, when you're doing too much. And thankfully I have that, of course, at PMI because we're all volunteers, but also at work. I have a boss, a female boss, and she is also very good at saying, okay, this is your priority, and this you can do on the side, and there's some things you just can't do. And that's a hard one for me. That's been a hard lesson to learn.
To prioritize. Yeah.
Well, to let go of things.
Let go of things. Actually, that's a very key one as well, because I also struggle. Is it something as a woman we all struggle to let go of things and we want to do everything all at once together?
I think that's very inherent to us.
Yeah. Wow. Great. Thank you for sharing your story, Christina.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the PMI Talk Show once again, Yolanda.
Thank you.
You are our president of the PMI Netherlands chapter, and on this important day I would like to ask you, what is it that PMI Dutch chapter does to bring gender diversity activities in place?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me once again, Shalini, in your podcast. I think this is a wonderful platform to spread our voices and let others hear what we're doing. To answer your question, this year we've integrated diversity, equity, and inclusion into our strategic plans, which means we are set out to implement and invite more diverse groups of people to speak and let their voices be heard.
And how do you ensure that the voices are heard, specifically within the board as well, but also within our community itself?
So I think we have one of the most diverse boards in Europe, probably. I mean, the Netherlands is known to be a small country with a very diverse ecosystem of international backgrounds, and that's not short of saying that our chapter is the same. What we do is actually, we are, especially this year, putting out surveys to see how people feel that the chapter is doing, how we're performing, and we can measure these metrics to see where we align in parity, equality, inclusivity, and areas that cover diversity and inclusivity, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And Yolanda, what inspires you on a daily basis to make our chapter, lead our chapter as a leader and shape the future of project management?
I think that's a very broad question, but in light of your question, I would have to say that it's really the group, the team that inspires me. I think that the chapter has really a lot of great qualities. We are improving in a lot of ways as well, but it would not happen without the members and the volunteers that are so passionate about the profession. So I think when you lead with purpose and you build with passion, you really bring a village together and you grow together. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And lastly, Yolanda, can you share with the audience a little bit about your personal experience as a woman in the project management field?
Yeah, I've been in the field for nearly 30 years, so that shouldn't give you my age bracket. Needless to say, my experience has been one that's been very rewarding in the profession. I think when I first started, it was primarily a male-dominated industry. I think now in every aspect of very different professions, whether you're in construction or real estate, pharmaceuticals or biotech, IT, technology, everything, you see more diverse people. So I think that's changed, and that inspires me to see that there's more equality out there and diversity, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. It was a pleasure having you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome, Stacey, in the PMI Talk Show. You're one of our volunteers, and I'd love to hear your stories and share it with our audience. Can you please tell us more about yourself and what support you've provided to the Dutch practice so far?
Sure. I was very active as a project manager in the PMI in California at the Inland Empire. I many years was the VP of programs, and I eventually became the president of our chapter.
Wow.
And so knowing PMI 2 years ago, when my family and I moved to the Netherlands, and I realized I needed a job, I reached out and became a member of the Netherlands chapter. My first event with you guys was at the summit, and it was amazing.
How lovely.
I learned so much from, it just feels good because it's familiar. You know, PMI is something that I've been doing for years, and to have a Dutch chapter, it feels so comfortable. But also, everybody here has been so lovely and fun, especially on a day like today, celebrating International Women's Day. Being a woman, seeing other women here, it's empowering to know that you can speak and learn from other people's experiences.
Absolutely wonderful words. Thank you. And what has your experience within the American chapter, California chapter, and the Dutch chapter taught you about being a woman in the project management field?
It can be tough. I'm a program manager. I started out as a financial analyst at Accenture. And what ended up happening was it became an early PMO, because when I started, it was 3 projects. By the time I left, I left Accenture, it was 6 years, but I was 5 years at Hewlett-Packard was my client. We had 60 projects, and I had analysts that were working for me. But to be an analyst on projects, you realize quickly you must know how projects run. You need to know their whole life cycle, because you can't monetize it without understanding it.
Right.
So from there, I learned how to be a project manager. I went on and got my education, and that's how I found PMI. I got my PMP. And after that, you understand you can master projects, you can become a program manager. And as a program manager, as a woman, most of the time, especially on IT projects, your teams are going to be 90% men. Because for some reason, coders and programmers are men. And so it can be tough sometimes, but as the program manager, I see it myself as the what is it called? So it's an orchestra, and you are the conductor.
Right.
And so you need to make sure every part, the wind, the brass, they're all playing together. Even if they're doing their own separate piece, it has to meld together
In a symphony.
in a symphony.
That's beautiful.
And you are the one keeping track to make sure we're all going in the same direction. And sometimes as a woman that can be tough because some cultures don't always feel respectful towards women. But I feel the heart of it all, the base of it all is respect.
Definitely. It's very powerful. Thank you. And lastly, what is an inspiring message you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Well, first off, I have to thank PMI, and I'm so glad that PMI is global, because without that, I wouldn't have this branch and this kind group of people that make me feel comfortable and at home to come to. So I thank PMI very much for that. But I also thank the men, the women, everybody that is part of PMI and project management, because everybody's so willing to share their information and share their experiences with each other. That's how you grow.
Right.
Everybody's different views and opinions, if they come together and you have conversation, that's how you move forward. And for me, that's key. So I'm so happy to be here and be part of that.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of our growth journey and the PMI Netherlands chapter.
My pleasure.
As we wrap up the special episode on International Women's Day, one thing is clear. Gender equality is not just a goal, but a necessity for progress within the project management field and beyond. Through policies, mentorship, strategic initiatives, and active leadership, PMI Netherlands is taking meaningful steps towards making it a more sustainable and inclusive future. But the conversation doesn't end here. Change happens when we all take action, whether it's advocating for diversity, mentoring future leaders, or simply amplifying the voices of those around us. Thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their insights, and to our listeners for joining us on this journey. If you found this discussion valuable, share it with your network, and let's continue to drive change and make meaningful impact. Thank you.